This is BSS Sports.
Fires to the end zone. It's caught. It's Greg Lewis. Touchdown.
Brooks with one. Lets it fly at the horn. It's gone.
Here's Crosby with a burst of speed up the middle. Gets open and scores.
A grand slam for A-Rod.
Pure genius from David Beckham.
That's it. Thierry Henry with a bullet.
With Thomas Brooks, Steve Shields, and Trevor Struthers. Only on 91X.
My name is Steven Schill, and I'm here with Trevor Struthers. I can't even say your name. We've been doing this for over a year now, and I still get your name wrong. Trevor.
It happens every now and then.
It's kind of a problem. Now, the NCAA March Madness Final, we saw the Villanova Wildcats beat... I don't know how they come up with these names, but the North Carolina Tar Heels, 77-74. Pretty good game. I mean, as always, the March Madness ends on a high note. Great to see the college game continually to progress and always be entertaining. Talked a lot about how, or well, at least opinions on the college game versus the professional game last week, so we're not going to touch on that too much this week. However, the professional side of things, the Masters, the big tournament, had a bit of an upset today.
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, going in, this kind of looked like it was Jordan Spieth's tournament. Like, he was obviously the odds-on favorite to win this thing. And, I mean, up until today, he was probably the guy that was looked at as being that guy that could win. It started off with Thursday and Friday. McIlroy was in there, too, and definitely had a shot at it. And even Jason Day, who is the world number one going into this tournament. But, I mean, Spieth at one point had a 5-stroke lead earlier on today, and then a span of 6 over to start the back 9 on the first 3 holes is what ended up ruining Jordan Spieth's day and comes up just a little short to the eventual winner, Danny Willett of the UK. In fact, a very UK-dominated board, which is kind of unique. Danny Willett's actually the only second person from England to actually win the Masters. And the interesting thing about Willett, you mentioned how it's an upset. He came into this tournament at 102nd in the world. He's now moved up to 12th in the world. And when we wake up tomorrow, given his performance today, he'll be in the top 10 in the world. And so that's quite the jump in just the span of about 4 days. But it's the 5th biggest comeback in Masters history that we saw. So it's tremendous, actually.
It's kind of weird to think when you're talking about golf, and I'm not a huge watcher of golf, but it seems like the names that you used to know, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, everybody, all those names seem to be in the past, and the kind of new cream of the crop is coming through. And we're going to get touching on that with basketball, but do you think we're in the stage right now where all of the older players are kind of fading off, per se?
Well, absolutely, and the thing with Jordan Spieth, I mean, in my opinion, he's the best golfer in the world. I mean, he's 23 years old, right? I mean, this is the cream of the crop when it comes to the young golfers, taking over the PGA Tour world, pretty much. You mentioned, Tiger Woods is obviously the golfer that everybody thinks of when they think of golf, and the guy, I mean, not only is he getting older, but he can't stay healthy and didn't even get to play at all during this tournament. A guy like Phil Mickelson is a guy that you'll see pull out, good tournaments here and there, but he missed the cut at this year's Masters. And, I mean, you look at the leaderboard, and you do see some familiar names, guys like Dustin Johnson, Lee Westwood, Justin Rose. Rory McIlroy is a younger guy that's on the leaderboard there. Jason Day is a guy he's getting up there in age somewhat, but, I mean, yeah, you look at the cream of the crop, it's Rory McIlroy, it's Jordan Spieth, and I mean, starting off the tournament, that's what this tournament was McIlroy against Spieth. It seemed like ultimately both of those guys ended up slipping a bit.
So moving on to OHL news, the Flint Firebirds. They fire the owner, and the owner gets banned for 5 years by the OHL itself, and the team gets stripped of their 3rd overall pick. Now, Nilsson, if you don't know who the owner of the Flint Firebirds was, he's a Norwegian businessman who made his fortune manufacturing watertight doors for the shipping industry, and bought the team that was the Plymouth Whalers and moved them to Flint for $8 million. Seems kind of weird to be making your fortune off watertight doors for shipping industries. Kind of strange, but hey, you know what? Everybody has their niche. Now, okay, the ban, I totally get. Essentially what happened, if you were unaware, is the coaches all got fired twice in the season. Every single one of the coaching staffs, boom, gone. They're out of there. Why? Because they didn't give enough playing time supposedly enough playing time to the owner's son. All right, so how in the heck can you strip a team because the owner is bad? A third overall pick is huge, especially in the OHL. How is this fair?
Yeah, it seems like when you talk to people, I mean, they agree with everything when it comes to the penalty except for this, and it's because you're really not, hurting the owner at all, and the owner is the guy that caused all this and started all this and should be punished. What you're punishing is you're punishing the players on the team moving forward. You're punishing the coaching staff and management staff that's taking over from here, and you're punishing the fans as well, obviously, which is a key thing. And down in Flint, Michigan, I don't know how many fans they had. It seems like they were struggling with fans at one point. I mean, that definitely is not helping out. They did have another first-round pick in there, but to lose like a third overall pick or whatever they ended up losing, I mean, it was a first-round pick, right? And we're talking, top 20 in the draft, and either way you look at it, it's a significant pick.
Well, it's different because, the same kind of thing happened with the Patriots, but the difference is they did it to win. This guy fired the coaches and kind of corrupted everything and made them lose, and they're getting punishing for losing? There's no winning in this argument. Sticking with hockey in the NHL, Rexall Place, officially done in Edmonton. I don't know if you caught the ending ceremony, but it was long. I went to the gym, and I was watching it on the TV, and I was just walking, and I'm like, this is really long. They basically brought out every Oilers player that's almost ever played there, and then they interviewed them. And look, I get it. It's cool. You're finishing off with a bang, but it almost felt too long and drawn out. So I got two questions for you. One, did they do the right thing by making this such a long kind of closing with bringing back virtually everybody? And two, whether you agree or disagree with the first question, or whatever you think with that, how could they have done it to make it more interesting and less of a time suck, per se?
That second question, very hard to answer, but I'll start with the first one, going in chronological order, obviously. Like, it did feel long, and at one point, I fell asleep watching it. And so, unfortunately, I missed the good parts. I fell asleep during the introductions of all the players. But, where have you seen something like that done before? And that's where it's cool. They pretty much bring back every player that's not, there might be active players, playing elsewhere that used to be Oilers players, but pretty much apart from those guys, they brought everybody back.
It wasn't even alphabetical, though. Like, they just randomly picked. It was like Andrew Ferentz and then some guy from the 80s, and I'm like, where were they going with this?
It was a nice mix. If you did it alphabetically, maybe you know who's coming out when, and Gretzky wouldn't be coming out last. So,
fair enough.
If you do it alphabetically, you screw over the Gretzky coming out last thing. It is kind of cool. There was a great snapshot I saw online of the final two guys stepping off the ice at Rexall Place. Actually, the final three guys. Ryan Smith was one of them, Connor McDavid, and Wayne Gretzky.
It's on our Twitter at BSS Sports. Check it out whenever you feel like it. With my second question, is there a way they could have done that by, not taking as much time as they did, or do you just have to do it like the way they did?
I don't know, if you could have done it quicker. Maybe bring them all out at once, but then, it's almost what's the point? It is cool to have everybody that's pretty much ever played there on the ice at once, for the final game, after the final game. But, when you're bringing that many people back, it's going to take a while to get through everything.
So we threw a poll up there on our Twitter. If you were the Montreal Canadiens, would you trade PK Subban for the first overall pick? And currently, we don't know who that first overall pick is. And Trevor, you seem to think that it's not Toronto?
I don't think it's Toronto. Obviously it could be Toronto, right? Toronto's going to have the best percentage at getting the pick. But the team that finished 30th in the NHL for a season hasn't won that first pick since 2011 when the Oilers selected Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Since then, 2012, 13, 14, 15, you've had the team that pretty much finished second or third end up with that first overall pick, and the team that was supposed to pick first because they finished last ended up, I think, picking second on all of them.
So we threw up this poll on Twitter, and we had an interesting reaction. We had 26 votes. 27% said yes, they'd take that deal, being the Montreal Canadiens, keeping that in mind. 58% said no, and then 15% said it depends. And that's obviously on how well PK Subban heals from his injury. They say it wasn't that great, but I haven't even heard of him playing since it. Has he been back at all?
I don't think so. The thing, though, about the whole PK Subban, would you trade him for the first overall pick? They definitely won't do that before the draft lottery because they have a shot at that first overall pick. It's not a great shot, but it's still a shot, which is better than no shot, which they would have no shot if they made the playoffs, but they obviously didn't. But yeah, so that's going to obviously depend on the lottery. The thing with the draft lottery this year that's so compelling, and so, I mean, maybe that'll throw my production off because we haven't seen a draft lottery like this. There's going to be, I think it's 3 different lotteries for the first 3 picks. I can't remember if it's that or if it's a draft lottery for like every pick. But anyways, it's pretty much a different lottery for at least the top 3 picks.
Huh. That shall be interesting. But, I mean, you could probably get more from PK Subban than just the first overall pick. I mean, it's good to have it, but I feel like you could get more out of it elsewhere. But the question was,
Well, the thing about a first overall pick is that you're usually guaranteed to get a very good player, obviously. PK Subban is a very good player, right? So it's like, I mean, maybe you could get more if it's a second-round pick because there's not as much promise, or even a first-round pick that's not the first overall pick. But the first overall pick, there's always that promise, and so it's kind of more of an equal 1-for-1, I would make the argument.
Now, I'm pretty sure you brought up 2011 was the last time the worst team in the NHL got the first overall pick, and I believe Jamie Campbell mentioned that was the same year that the Blue Jays won their home opener, and I don't really know what to say with the Blue Jays. I mean, they're good, but I'm almost afraid that this hype is going to be too much, and I get that you can, say this or that, and Greg Zahn constantly goes on about how it's the start of the season. But what do you think about the Blue Jays? Are you excited about the home opening weekend, the start of the season? Everybody was picking the Rays to be one of the top teams in the East, and they're currently, I believe, last place. And Orioles are first, which is super weird, but I don't really know what to say. I mean, it's the beginning of the season. Things are hard to figure out. What do you think with the Jays? Is this good? Is this bad? What is this?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to make a point. Last year, the Red Sox started out the season 7-3, I believe, and they ended up finishing last in the division. So, I mean, obviously, early on in the year, really anything could happen, and a lot of it depends on matchups. Who's playing what early on? Like, who's playing who early on in the season? Coming off of this, I am excited about a couple of things about the Blue Jays, and that's the offense. I mean, they still continue to score a bunch of runs, and the start we saw today from Marco Estrada, even with the injury battles he's had throughout the spring, he goes out there and he delivers a big start when they needed it to avoid that sweep. And so there are some positive things. The bullpen, obviously, I mean, that's something that was awful for a good chunk last year, and people were down on them. The bullpen, I think, can turn it around. This is a more talented bullpen than what they had last year. They're coming off of a tough week, a bad, really 3 games, maybe 4. And, I mean, they have enough talent in that bullpen to turn it around, especially with a guy like, it's pretty much the same bullpen. It's pretty much the same team. But, yeah, it's pretty much the same bullpen with an addition of Drew Storen, which it's not a bad addition.
And with the Blue Jays and, all the hype that it brings, kind of forgetting about the Toronto Raptors. I mean, they're second in the Eastern Conference. We haven't done that in a really long time. Well, okay, sorry. Not a really long time because they've been good lately. But the point being, why the heck is nobody paying attention about the Raptors? Now, maybe that's my ignorance, and people are. But I feel like since the Jays started, the Raptors' kind of hype has dwindled a lot.
There is obviously some hype there, and it's going to pick up when the playoffs really get going. But I think obviously a lot of attention has been on the Maple Leafs, as it always is. Even though they finished 30th in the league, Tank Nation is roaring loud and proud right now, and they want that first overall pick, and they want Austin Matthews. And then obviously the Blue Jays, there's the hype of going to the ALCS last year, and the hype of what could be this year. And so they're kind of in a rough little spot. I mean, I'd feel bad for TFC if they if TFC were to make the playoffs again, and the Blue Jays were in the playoffs. Much like last year, they were kind of buried behind that. And the Raptors, as much as they're a good basketball team and all, basketball is still kind of third tier. I feel in Toronto behind hockey and baseball.
I concur with that one. And if you are unaware about the NBA Hall of Fame 2016 class, it includes Shaquille O'Neal, the Big Diesel, Allen Iverson, the Answer, and Yao Ming, the Great Wall. I don't know who came up with these nicknames, but they're fairly intriguing, to say the least. That's it for this episode of BSS Sports. Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You can check us out on YouTube. We are archiving there at BSS Productions. For Stephen Schill and Trevor Struthers, we'll catch you next Monday.